Hello. Regular viewers might be wondering why I spent over a year and a half not posting anything. This video is for those people. If you're not one of them, but you like hearing some guy ramble about nothing for the better part of an hour, do stick around. But if not, no hard feelings, I'll see you in the next one. You may be interested to know that the script document I'm reading this from is titled, Not Farewell Video Script. This is because it is not a farewell video. It used to be, though. This is going to be a video where I talk over a bunch of footage of me driving around in Beam, and some of these clips are so old that they don't even have the nice new physical mirrors. The reason for that is that I started working on this almost a year ago when I genuinely did intend to officially quit YouTube. I'll get into that and why I didn't in the most roundabout way possible, because the script for the farewell video I didn't make is 16 pages long and I am basing much of this script structure on that one. This'll be a bit of a mess. Ready to hear a bunch of pointless backstory? No? Too bad. I started regularly uploading to this channel during the COVID pandemic, with a lot of time on my hands and nothing to do with it. On a whim, I took some inspiration from a few favorite YouTubers and just started uploading. Really, I just decided one day I was going to make a video, and then I simply kept doing it. My initial content was mostly unedited. I was trying to be a text commentary version of Fail Race at first, although I wasn't very good at that. I couldn't, and can't, keep a running commentary interesting. I'm frankly just not entertaining enough. After a couple videos in a game called Wreckfest, I decided it was time to add another game to the lineup, Automation. If you're a long-time subscriber, you're likely here because of that decision. I've discussed my complex relationship with Automation before, and I'll do it again in the next chapter because I apparently cannot get enough of complaining about the game, but for now I'll just tell you that a lot of my channel's early success came from Automation. It was important for another reason, too. It planted the seeds for what my video style would eventually become. You see, Auto's just too slow and tedious to present in real time. I was forced to cut it up to make the edit flow faster. Right after my first Automation video came out, I also started a series on a game called RimWorld. These videos were not very successful for the most part, but I did learn from them. Not only did I need to cut away most of the fat, as with Automation, but I also had to edit and write commentary selectively. At its core, RimWorld is described as a story generator. To make an interesting RimWorld video, one has to narrate that story. The only other notable game I played for the channel in the early days is the one you're seeing right now, BeamNG, of course. It's the only game I never quit making content with, at least until I kind of stopped YouTubing altogether for a while. I started a series going through the career mode of Teardown in my more cut-down style, and I also added Forza Horizon 4 and Subnautica to the mix, but a little under a year in, I was already quitting my first series. I'd been doing community races in Forza for a little while, racing friends and anyone else from the community I could pester into joining the session, but with a small channel and audience, scheduling enough people for a video was nearly impossible. So, finally, I quietly dropped the series. I never bothered to reach out to get people to join again. In all honesty, I'm kind of a quitter by nature. I quit games, I quit hobbies, I've quit videos that weren't shaping up as nicely as I liked. I've quit Automation builds, I quit Automation itself several times, more on that later, and as discussed, I quit entire series. Forza was the first, but it was not the last. After I finished my playthrough of Subnautica, I bought its successor, Below Zero. I meant to do a full series on it, but I probably should have done a few more hours of testing before I started filming, because after 2 videos I'd had enough. I just didn't like the game very much, and rather than grinding out an entire playthrough of it, I just stopped. I quit one of my RimWorld series partway through, although I had the decency to fake a natural ending for it rather than move on with no announcement. I quit The Long Drive because it was too unstable. I quit SnowRunner because it was too boring. I quit another RimWorld series after just 1 episode, and in the middle of all this quitting, I quit text commentary. I had finally seen the light. Voice commentary was the way forward, and the way to save my slowly dying channel, too. I was awful at it to begin with, and being as self-conscious as I am, I'm amazed I even released my first dozen narrated videos. Meanwhile, I'd been gradually speeding up my edits, transitioning from a slower but more objective style into what I hoped was a sleeker, more stylish, higher production value sort of thing. I think my most important video in terms of the evolution of my channel was the first teardown cinematic video. The premise was a misguided tutorial on how to make a cinematic video in that game, but what stuck for me was the cinematic process itself. I fell in love with cinematography and editing, and pretty soon I was applying that style to everything I did. Beams, certain aspects of automation videos, another teardown thing. I'd finally found a style that worked for me. While I was getting fancy with the presentation of my videos, I was evolving the content too. My projects, especially in automation, had been getting more and more complicated for a while, and after a collaboration with Filmin86, it got really out of hand. I made a string of auto videos with heavily J-beam modded cars, and after 5 or so of those, I quit automation altogether. My beam update videos, which were by then a regular feature, got more and more intricate and creative, and the most recent few I've made are entirely cinematic. Not a single moment of normal gameplay remains. I reviewed 2 games, resulting in a barrage of hate comments and the loss of $100 thanks to Forza Motorsport and the wonders of Microsoft Store. Long story, although the game did eventually start working again. I made one more cinematic video, which I quit partway through and uploaded in its half-completed state. I made 2 more beam update videos 4 months apart, and... as of the first version of this script, that was it. Until very recently, I had not uploaded for 20 months. Yep, of course it was coming. I just can't stop myself, can I? Time for that beloved recurring segment that is me complaining about the game that many of you watch me for. After significant effort, I've found a way to twist this into a thematically relevant part of the overall script, so here goes nothing. We'll begin this segment with a friendly voice, a companion unobtrusive. Let's start with the basics, shall we? Auto is an annoying game to play. There are 1,000 little subtle things that just make it infuriating, at least if you're me, and for the purposes of this recording, I must assume that you are. You can never, and I mean never, find exactly the right body to be the base of your car. In fact, usually you can hardly even get in the ballpark. Get it? Base? Ballpark? Yeah, that's fine, I didn't get it either. I hate sports. You can't have a model year earlier than 1946, but worse, you can't have one later than 2020. The newest car you can possibly make in auto is 6 years old. The engine designer is laggy, the camera breaks, the fixtures freak out, the shading's wonky, you can't find the right fixture anywhere, you select the wrong fixtures, and sometimes when you load the car it's reset a morph somewhere and broken half of everything you've ever placed. You might export a car to Beam only to find its paint is suddenly matte and pastel, or that the drive shaft snaps when you put it in gear. You often open Auto's photo mode to, say, get a thumbnail for your YouTube video, only to remember that almost every single one of the photo scenes has a different lighting profile, and it's going to take you ages to make the car look halfway decent. And none of these things are even my main problem. See, like so many relationships, mine with automation is fundamentally flawed, and it's not really anybody's fault. Although everything I just mentioned absolutely does drive me crazy, it's like blaming a breakup on somebody's choice of breakfast cereal. The underlying problem is that I have 3 converging character flaws. The first is that I'm not very creative at all, at least in a design sense. You can see that in some of my lazier automation builds, where I clone a BMW 507 or a Koenigsegg or a Ford Capri. The second is that despite this, I'm a perfectionist. Every auto video I've had started as the best car I've ever made. Without fail, I have sky-high expectations at the start of a build, and throughout the process I want to make everything better and more detailed than I ever have before. The third thing is the kicker. I cannot, for the life of me, stay motivated. No matter what I do in life, I start by not. In other words, I spend a week thinking about how great it'll be when I finally get started, but just not today. I don't feel like it today. Once I start, it's fine. I'll work pretty diligently until I need to take a break for the day, but then the whole process repeats itself. Man, this auto car I'm going to work on tomorrow is going to be the best I've ever made. Over time, I procrastinate so much that I forget what I was excited about in the first place, and so the quality of my work suffers. I no longer try to create unique styling, I just rip off some real-life car that vaguely resembles what I'm going for. I no longer make every facet of the car as detailed as possible, instead I forget to add even basic things like the pedals, or a shifter, or the mirrors. This upsets my inner perfectionist, which kills more motivation, which in turn makes me less creative, and so on. You might well be thinking that I should just build simpler cars, but the fact is, I just can't. Making something consistently at 80% quality would be even worse than making something that starts at 100% but gets exponentially lazier over time. I've only ever made one car I still liked by the time I uploaded the video, and I think I have more unfinished auto videos than released ones. You know those on and off again couples that break up, get back together, break up, get back together, and it's clearly not healthy for anyone? I don't. I have the social skills of the sort of weird, ugly fish dredged up from the bottom of the ocean that scientists have spent decades believing extinct, and consequently I don't really know anyone, but I think it's a pretty apt metaphor for the way I always seemed to come back to automation, at least until quite recently. I always knew I hated it, and I knew it probably wasn't good for me, but I just couldn't stop. I could stay away for a while, but no matter what I said, I never really seemed to manage to quit the game for good. In other news, I think I've finally kicked the habit. That's all a very long-winded way of saying that automation syndrome can be applied to making YouTube videos as well. There's also a new challenge. You see, I'm not very invested in how good you think I am at building a car in automation, nor do I mind all the hate comments on my review videos informing me that I am a terrible driver. The building, the driving, those are just tasks I do as part of a whole project. The videos, though? Those I put my soul into, and I simply cannot live with uploading a bad one. Uploading something like my first narrated video now would be as unthinkable as deleting every video I've ever made. The thing is, I've just found other things I'm almost always more motivated to do, and so because a motivationally challenged video wouldn't satisfy me, I've been taking more and more time between uploads to just do those other things instead. I always felt kind of guilty that I could be working on a video, but I'm too weak of character to actually start doing it. That's why I planned to quit YouTube. I wanted to absolve myself of responsibility so I didn't feel guilty anymore. I should clarify, you're probably typing up a comment about how I shouldn't feel bad and you'll still be here whenever I'm ready to upload something, etc. It's not about you. To put it bluntly, I don't care if you want another video or if you don't. As far as YouTube goes, I only care about myself. I feel guilty not because I'm not giving you as much content as you deserve, but because I'm not being as productive as I want to be. If you're anything like me, you know that such a feeling is not useful for actually being productive. There's a certain undeniable fact that all small YouTube channels must come to terms with. This platform does not like you. Running a small channel, especially if you are the sort who likes to look at view graphs, feels like rolling a boulder up a hill. You might have minor successes here and there, but as your expectations grow, the boulder always seems to shift and roll back to the bottom with you flattened like a pancake and stuck to the surface like you're a character in a Looney Tunes gag. The core of the issue for a channel like mine is simple. You need an audience to grow an audience. How do you reach new viewers? A great way is to make a video on something new. In my case, often this means a new Beam update. The later you upload this video, the fewer views it will get. Any potential new viewers will just have watched someone else's video instead of yours. The problem here is that all of the big Beam channels have an advantage that I don't. Beam has a content creator program, which gives creators early access to new updates so they can prepare videos ahead of time. I applied for this program twice and never heard anything back, which probably means that despite meeting their minimum requirements, I had too small a channel for them to want to bring me into the fold. Also, more universal to YouTube as a whole, you can really crank out videos a whole lot faster if you don't have to have a day job. If you already make enough money to be a full-time YouTuber, it enables you to make a whole lot more money. If you have school or a normal job or, enough of a life that it eats into your content creating time, tough luck. Until my return with the cinematic beam thing in December, my view counts had been declining for a long time, and I'm sure one reason my channel died off the way it did is because all the extra work I was putting into my videos slowed down my uploads, and the lack of any real viewership created a feedback loop where I became less motivated and therefore uploaded more slowly still. I think while I'm talking about motivation, I really ought to give you an idea of what goes into the kind of stuff I make. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because this isn't a tutorial, I just want to give you an idea of why it's so hard for me to stay engaged throughout the production of a video. Most videos I make can be broken down into 6 stages of work: planning, filming, writing, voiceover, editing, and release. Planning is the simplest because usually there's none to be spoken of. All I need is a little spark of inspiration, and in the case of the more cinematic videos, a couple really nice visuals in my imagination, and it's onto the filming stage. Occasionally I'll put in a little more thought. I started making a video over 2 years ago involving interviews with successful beam modders, and that one took quite a lot of thinking to settle on a format for. Usually though, this stage barely exists at all. That interview video, by the way, is probably never happening. I have concluded that lacking a single focal point, it's just not going to work in its current form. Filming is sometimes my favorite part of the process, and sometimes one of my least favorites because the amount of work here depends so much on what I'm doing. I loved recording the background footage for this very video, for instance, because it was very relaxing, just driving some nice cars on nice roads at a reasonable speed. This is essentially the same thing I do for fun in real life sometimes, although I only have access to one quite average car. Other times, though, it's extremely tedious. I'm mostly thinking of automation here, but that's sometimes the case with my beam cinematics too, depending on how complicated they are and how easily I'm able to see the final product in my head. I don't storyboard my shots, or even plan most of the sequences you see in the videos, I just improvise them based on a strong mental picture that's always one step ahead of my filming. It tends to work out, but some days my mind's eye seems to need glasses. If I don't immediately know where to put the camera, it'll take me half an hour to find the shot. Writing has long been a challenge to me. One of the reasons the beam update videos are the way they are is because I can only ever find a few sentences to say about any given thing unless that thing came from my own head, so I tend to just introduce a feature and then let the cinematography do the talking for a while. The less I focus on providing a running commentary, in other words, the more my script focuses on the bigger picture, the easier and more enjoyable this is. I wouldn't necessarily say that I ever truly like writing scripts, but I've become more comfortable doing it than I used to be. I did spend a lot of time laboring over this one. Part of the reason it took so long to make is because I rewrote the script, I'm gonna say about 5 or 6 times, but that's because it's extremely long and quite candid. I have to make sure everything comes out right. There are more general issues that do cause hang-ups here. I have a lot of odd tics when I talk, particularly with regard to my word choice, and because I write how I speak, they tend to come out in my scripts. I always have to consciously go back and make sure I haven't turned the same phrase one too many times. This is also true of game-specific words. I always have an awful time referring to the various specs of beam cars because nobody wants to hear me say configuration 500 times in one video again. I also have a tendency to write extremely long sentences that I don't have the lung capacity to say, so these have to be split up. Even then, I'm finishing many of these lines with the absolute last of my breath. In all cases, voiceover is by far the most frustrating part of the process. It's the only stage where I am always unhappy. I've never found any enjoyment in it, and I'm never satisfied. If I could get somebody else to read my scripts for me, I would, but it feels dishonest. Not to mention the only way to have my script narrated the way I hear it in my head is to do it myself. I'm not good at talking. I have to make a conscious effort to enunciate, otherwise I just mumble at a panicked breakneck pace. I am uncomfortable speaking at loud enough volume to be clear through a microphone, and I hate the sound of my own voice until I've run it through 5 or 6 audio plugins to get the sound you're hearing right now. I stumble over my words constantly, and I have awful breath control. Between some of the sentences here, I've had to pause for several seconds so I can catch my breath. Based on past videos, I bet the raw recording of this voiceover is over 150% of the length of the final product, maybe even more, since this is the longest script I've recorded in years. For whatever reason, my voice is always worn out very quickly, and I often wake up with a voice so clotted and gravelly that I can't do any voiceover that day. I'm very impatient, and I am admittedly very hard on myself when I'm voicing a script. I often end voiceover sessions exhausted and angry. After the narration's done, I have to go back and edit sometimes well over 40 minutes of messy VO. I cut sometimes half a dozen bad takes per sentence, trim the pauses, silence the spaces, and spot edit plenty of harsh S sounds and clicks and plosives. Every sentence needs to be individually normalized to the same peak volume. This isn't as bad as the voiceover itself, but I'd still just as soon not do it. Editing is pretty fun for the most part. This is especially true of my cinematic videos, where I get to see the vision in my head slowly become a reality as I assemble all of the individual shots from the filming session. That said, I hate audio editing because I don't entirely understand it, and I really hate editing automation because one auto video is usually the product of somewhere between 80 and 120 hours of footage. Can you imagine scrubbing through hours upon hours of repetitive, boring recordings of a game you don't even find interesting anymore, trying to find specific moments, in chronological order, that line up with the script you wrote last week? It's awful. Still, the dopamine rush from seeing a sequence of shots come together exactly the way I'd intended it is one of the biggest reasons I'm still doing this. As for release, there's not much to be said other than how annoying it is to have to try to market your video to get any reasonable performance. I hate clickbait, even really clicky titles that still deliver on the promise annoy me, but I certainly understand why people do it. I've even kind of done it. Any title on my channel stating that I did something or containing an exclamation point was written to try to be engaging for the algorithm. I don't like these titles, which is why I've only done it a couple times. I took a couple semesters of marketing classes in high school because I thought it would be an easy grade, which it was, and you'd think this might help me find a way to attract viewers, but it really hasn't. I think I'm wrong about a video's performance more often than I'm right. There are also a lot of little things, like writing a description or adding timestamps that are worded in such a way that they might be search terms. I hate doing this stuff, it feels kind of demeaning. As a final step of the release process, I've started writing manual subtitles again. I used to do this when I first started voiceover and then quit because YouTube's subtitle editor kept failing to load all of the video that I was meant to be subtitling. I think it's a good thing to do though for people who need it and for people who just want it, and the auto-generated titles are often appallingly bad, so I'd rather you get subtitles straight from the YouTuber's fingers. I'm sure subtitling this particular video is going to be torture. So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into these things. If there was a way that I could only do the parts that I enjoy, I'd have a much easier time staying motivated, but I don't work well with others. I don't trust anybody else to stay true to my vision, and for that matter, I don't want to rely on someone else. Even if I got someone to narrate my videos for free, which I wouldn't, I'd have to pay them. If for whatever reason they stopped doing that, it would be a very jarring stylistic shift in my content to suddenly have a different voice. Also, this has always been a one-man operation. Only when I've occasionally collaborated with other YouTubers, had someone voice a quoted comment or document, or burnt out on automation and had a friend finish the build, has anyone but me worked on the final product. If I started delegating entire sections of the process to someone else, at what point would it cease to be my channel entirely? Essentially, because I'm unwilling to sacrifice my control over the final product, if I'm not motivated enough to do the entire thing myself, there won't be a final product. There's no way to solve this, it's just not in my nature to do anything differently. So why did I start YouTube? I guess it all started, a handful of billion years ago if you want to be pedantic, but really I got interested in YouTube the way everyone else did, spending years of my free time watching it. It was incredible to me that one person could touch the lives of people all over the world. You know how the theory of relativity works? Me neither, but to make an admittedly bizarre analogy, on YouTube even a nobody like me can put a little dent in the fabric of the universe. A psychologist might attribute this to ego or a need to be accepted or important in society. They might even be right. What I think, however, is that it's just kind of cool to be some guy talking to nobody in his bedroom, and yet have audience members all across the world in places I've never been and probably won't ever be. The problem is, much like with the theory of relativity, I don't have a good grasp on how that works. What I think will do well and reach a huge audience does poorly, but some horrible video I made in automation 5 years ago gets 200,000 views. As far as the algorithm is concerned, my peak was in 2020 and 2021. If you, as a creator on YouTube, spend too much time looking at the analytics, this can kind of get to you. In a weird way, you end up measuring your self-worth by your daily views or watch hours. When your view graph has been trending more or less downward for about 4 years, as it was when I wrote the first version of this script, that can be incredibly demoralizing. There's another problem that I've never touched on, because I've frankly been a little scared to. That problem is, you. I want to preface this by saying that it's a me problem. It's how I perceive having an online audience as opposed to something you, the audience, are actually doing wrong. That said, I have a hard time seeing my audience as actual people. What I see, at least deep down, is just a big number. That might be a view count, like 500 or 5,000. It might be a subscriber count, like 4,383 at the time of writing. My brain understands that there really are that many actual individual people interested in what I'm putting out there, but my heart doesn't. It sometimes feels like I'm just throwing my videos out into the void. I've often found interacting with my community to feel a little hollow. As much as I hate human interaction, replying to text on a screen doesn't feel like a conversation, it's a mechanical response. Also, the comments are, no offense, often rather shallow. I don't think this is a problem, because what are you supposed to do? But a comment like, good video, doesn't exactly provoke an engaging discourse. Don't get me wrong, I really do appreciate it, and it's nice to get positive feedback, but I find the replies I give, usually just, thanks, so mundane that it can get emotionally draining. These days I'll answer comments for maybe a couple days after I publish a video, largely because I believe you deserve an answer if you've taken the time to compliment my work. But I stop after a while because it's too much effort. I just can't. Don't take it personally if I don't reply to your comment, even if I seem to be replying to everyone else. Sometimes it's because I didn't see it, sometimes it's because I didn't feel like it. That's down to me either way. I still appreciate that you took the time. Much worse than the shallowness, again, that's not even a problem, are the comments that ask for things. It's almost always a demand. Build an ambulance inspired into the Cadillac Superior Rescue? What was your complete mod list for this 3-year-old video you don't remember making? You should play Roblox. I can make you an account if you want. It's comments like these, in addition to some of the Discord DMs that I've gotten, that sometimes give me the feeling that a large part of my audience and I are fundamentally mismatched. By the way, I recently had someone re-upload my Beam cinematic with some music added. It's kind of hard to talk about this without feeling like I'm punching down, as it were, so if the person in question is watching this, you apologized, you took it down, we're all good. No hard feelings. Still, to anyone thinking about doing something like that, just don't, alright? I put tons of work into my videos, especially that one, and they're very dear to me. It kind of hurts to see someone take all that work I did, take maybe an hour to change some things around, and then slap it back on YouTube, especially if the description calls it edited and improved. Seeing as that video was worked on sporadically for 2.5 years, if I had thought those edits would have improved it, I'd have done them myself, you know? I don't like being the guy who comments on such a video telling the creator to take it down. It's not that I don't think I'm in the right, but everyone is the hero of their own story, and so to them, I am the bad guy. I don't want to be anyone's bad guy, it feels awful. At the risk of some moron in the comments calling me weak or too sensitive, I ended up dwelling on that for most of the rest of the day. I feel like I ought to end this chapter by reiterating that I really do appreciate anyone who takes the time to interact with my videos in some way. I'm not trying to police what comments you make. If you want to tell me to build an ambulance inspired into the Cadillac Superior Rescue, go ahead. What I will say though is that the comments I appreciate the most are the ones that ask genuine questions, how did I do that? Or give genuine feedback, be it positive or negative. My favorite comments on the cinematic thing were the ones asking about the techniques I used to film it, or asking questions about why I did or didn't do certain things, the ones pointing out little details I wasn't sure anyone would notice, and a couple that praised the restraint I had used. Restraint, at least compared to what a lot of people do in Beam, was one of the main things I kept in mind for that, and it was nice to see people picking up on it. There's nothing wrong with a simple nice video either, to be clear. This is going to make me sound much older than I am. Time goes by lightning fast now. I feel like I spend most of my day doing nothing in particular, and yet, it's gone just like that. This is scary on a deeply existential level, but more to the point of this video, although I have less going on in my life than I used to, I feel like I have less time. I also think I live my life somewhat differently now. Particularly in this past year, I've realized I value free time and freedom more than anything else in the world. I don't like schedules, I don't like commitments, and I love nothing more than to impulsively take a 10-hour drive to the middle of nowhere just because I can. In May, I took a big week-and-a-half-long solo road trip around the northeastern US and a bit of Canada, and I think it fundamentally changed me as a person. I became addicted to the freedom of driving all day and not caring where I ended up, of sleeping in a different place every night, and of exploring little corners of the world completely alone with just myself, my car, some CDs, and my phone camera. I have plenty of hobbies, some new, some old, all either very time-consuming, very expensive, or both. I took up hiking a couple months ago, and it's great, but of course that eats up my whole day every time I do it. My thinking when I wrote the original draft of this script was that I just can't sit around and look at a screen for fun like I used to when I was making videos more regularly. It makes me feel like I'm suffocating, which I mean metaphorically, but also somehow almost literally. If my little day trips and road trips are in some way spiritually liberating, sitting at my computer for too long is the opposite. It's emotionally exhausting. I don't play games for fun anymore. Basically, I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago, and until recently, I wasn't sure a world existed where I could ever truly enjoy making videos the way I used to. I felt nostalgic for it, and sometimes I'd watch my own videos and feel quite a bit of pride despite all the things I would have changed in any one of them. But I thought, maybe some things are best enjoyed in retrospect. So, why'd I come back then? This was never going to be my actual last video. I felt that the original script was rather pessimistic, for one thing, but for another, I didn't want to end my channel with a boring video of me talking. I wanted something with a little more spectacle. Although I'd already released an unfinished version of my Beam police chase thing, I'd continued working on it for months at this point. I decided I'd wait to release my farewell video until I could follow it up one day later with the completed cinematic, which would be one last hurrah, a high note to end my channel on. One for the road, if you will. For better or for worse, though, particularly after one huge several-month-long break in production, I just kind of found myself enjoying the process again. It turns out I never stopped liking video production, I'd just become really badly burnt out. By mid-November, a month before I finished, I had decided that I was not going to quit after all. The video would instead be my triumphant return to YouTube. Since I made that decision, I've been feeling more creative motivation than I've had in years. I keep having ideas, and I really ought to stop having them because it'll already take me months to make everything I have in my head right now. When I published the Beam cinematic in December, I expected it to get maybe 600 or 700 views. One major contributing factor to my burnout, I think, was that the amount of effort I put into a video seemed to have a nearly perfectly inverse relationship with the number of views it would get. Also, my understanding of the YouTube algorithm is that it likes you more the more often you upload, 20 months had gone by since my previous video, and so I figured the new video would be pretty much dead in the water the moment I released it. A funny thing happened though. As mentioned in a previous chapter, I've never been able to predict the whims of the algorithm, and within 2 days the video had taken off so abruptly that it was already my second most viewed video of all time. As of writing this section of script, it's my second ever video to reach 6 digits, and at this rate, maybe one day it'll finally overtake that stupid, awful, realistic car video and become my most popular video ever. I truly mean it when I say I'm blown away and very grateful for all the success that video's had, just as I truly mean it when I tell you not to watch the realistic car video. It's very, very bad, and I find it kind of embarrassing. If you're going to watch something of mine, watch one of the videos with yellow text in the thumbnail. They're still not all my favorites, but they're a lot better. The funny thing is that despite all the videos I've made, I only started making videos I'm truly happy with right before I was about to quit. Oh well, you can't make an omelette without breaking 251 eggs. At this point, we've fully diverged from the path of my original script. Part of me is a little sad I won't ever get to use the last chapter of that one, titled Thanks for Watching and Goodbye. It's one of the greatest sections of script I've ever written, but I suppose we're all better off with this ending, right? The thing is, though, to repurpose a line from that original outro, what if YouTube itself is one big automation syndrome? In the first draft, I was referring to the possibility that I would find myself drawn back to content creation despite having quit it, and how I might decide at the moment I clicked the publish button that this was, in fact, my life's true calling. In this version, though, we can flip that on its head. What if this is another false start? I can't tell you how many times I've thought I actually had the motivation for an auto build again, opened the game, looked at the body selection screen, and closed the game again. Am I going to run out of steam this time too? I think the only way to avoid that is to give myself a hard ground rule for the channel to make sure I'm making content in a way that is emotionally sustainable. No matter what, I am only going to make videos that I actively want to make. Basically, I need to be certain that my primary motivator for any idea is an actual creative desire, rather than because that video would get a bunch of views. The reason I pushed through the misery and the burnout that almost every single automation video post-2021 caused me is that I thought they'd do well. Also, I was appeasing my subscribers. I was pretty sure most of you were only around because of the auto stuff, and the views supported that theory. I've never understood the appeal, in all honesty. I can find some enjoyment or satisfaction watching most of my, call it the most recent 20 videos or so, but with the automation videos, I just don't get it. It's a boring game. I don't know what else to say about it. I don't really watch gaming videos at all anymore, even if it is my own medium, but back when I did, I never watched other people's auto builds. I truly just don't find automation interesting to watch. It's no surprise then that I don't find any sense of pride or accomplishment in making auto content of my own, even ignoring how much I hate the production itself. All of which is to say, there's probably not going to be any more automation around here. If it's not Type 1 fun, fun in the moment, and not Type 2 fun, fun in retrospect, then it must be Type 3 fun, which is simply not fun. Why would I waste so much of my time doing something that isn't fun if I'm not allowing myself to be motivated by views anymore? Back in November 2024, unbeknownst to me because I hardly ever check the email address associated with my channel, YouTube sent me an email. The gist of this email was that because I hadn't uploaded in a while, they were going to cut off my monetization in 30 days. Seeing as I discovered this email in mid-January of 2025, I was of course not monetized when the Beam cinematic came out, and I've missed out on what I will very roughly estimate to be about $150 from the second most successful video I've ever made. YouTube allowed me to reapply for monetization shortly after its release, and after some waiting I can make money here again. It's really a shame to have missed the boat on that one, what with the many hundreds of hours and several years of work going into it, but ultimately it's that ground rule again. Make videos because I want to make them, not for any other reason. It is what it is. The ground rule is also the reason you're seeing this video now. With the comeback video and the newest Beam update video done, I had a choice of a few videos to make next. It was definitely going to be either this one or a behind the scenes for the cinematic thing. Both are somewhat limited in window of relevancy. This one has to be done relatively soon after my return, that one would have to be soon after the cinematic video's release. The reasons they're time sensitive, though, are different. This needs to be released quickly for thematic relevance as well as simple logical coherence within all my other videos. The behind the scenes video would only need an earlier release for views. Using my new guiding principle, it was pretty clear which should come first. The behind the scenes thing will still be coming, but just not yet. I think it might be the next one, but I'm not sure. I want to manage expectations a little bit. I'm likely only going to be making the high effort stuff now, and following the rule of creatively motivated videos, if I'm not feeling motivated, I'm just not going to make anything. I often used to end a video by apologizing for how long it took and promising another one that would hopefully get done a little sooner, immediately followed by an even longer gap between uploads. I don't want to keep saying things like that. Every video will take as long as it takes, and I want to make my peace with that. As the banner above my channel page has stated for years now, there will be new videos every sometimes. It's a strange world we live in, where this is a chapter in this video, but here we are. I feel like I'm being bombarded with AI these days. It seems to have worked its way into nearly every aspect of life. Looking at YouTube Studio right now, I have options to ask an AI about the performance of my recent videos. If I respond to your comments from there, there are auto-generated replies just waiting for me to click on them so I can outsource the task entirely to a computer. I recently had to return a monitor I bought because Amazon sent me the wrong one. Turns out I have to talk to an AI chatbot to go through that process now, even though it worked fine, nice and fast and easy before. When I told the chatbot that I'd been sent a different item than what was listed, it asked me if there was anything inaccurate about the listing. I had better reading comprehension than that when I was 5. Nearly every digital product or service bills itself as AI-powered now. I called my car insurance company the other day. My call was picked up by an AI who, after a whole lot of circular back and forth, offered to text me a link to a form because it would be quicker than staying on the call and waiting for a human. This link took me to a page with a header that read, "Hi, Vincent." My name is not Vincent. I got a comment on the cinematic video suggesting that instead of spending 2.5 years of my life working on it, I could have just asked ChatGPT to create a script and generate camera paths. Saves hours. Ignoring all the reasons that this wouldn't actually work, I take offense to the idea that an AI could effectively make creative decisions for me. AI in its current state isn't creative, it just recycles old ideas. Besides, it really wouldn't be my video anymore, would it? The point is, I'm never going to use AI in my videos. I did an automation video where I had it generate some fictional cars for me to recreate, and I used that as a running joke in a few other auto videos because I was lazy, but that was fully disclosed, and even then, I wouldn't do that now. The worst thing I or any creative person could be accused of, I think, is being an AI. I do a lot of things well and many more poorly, but it's all me. Before I finish this script up, I'd like to ask a question to however many of you are still watching, if you happen to know the answer. One of my ideas for a future video requires the use of a couple mods, one of which has a few little bugs and a creator who hasn't been online for almost a year, not to mention a few changes that could be made. I've messaged the author, but there hasn't been a response, so what's beam etiquette like around having someone refurbish someone else's mod? On a related note, if you happen to know a lot about beam engines and powertrains, or possibly and separately particle effects from terrain, do get in touch. I used to know more about beam modding than I do now, and even if I had the ability to do that sort of thing anymore, I'm not sure I'd want to. My focus, for the sake of my own sanity, really ought to be on filming and editing, not modding. I think I've got everything covered now, or at least everything of any importance, and seeing as this sentence begins page 22 of my revised script, I think that'll have to do. It's good to be back, at least for now. I should have the next video in the works eventually, but on the other hand, maybe I won't. Gotta be more relaxed about this whole thing, you know? Feel free to leave any feedback you have in the comments. In fact, please do. It helps the algorithm, and just because I'm not going to make videos for the sake of views anymore doesn't mean I don't want to get any. For now though, it's been a monster voiceover session. My voice is tired. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.